Uh, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, you got a camera with you got a phone with a camera?
Look at my tablet.
Okay, take a picture.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait. Hold on. I got my phone instead. All right. Okay, I'll take a picture. So wait, hold on. I got it.
And this will serve as a review for other people that weren't here.
Okay, wait. Give me 1 second. I'm slow. Okay,
Okay, you got that?
got it.
That's
Yes.
that's A, and then you got one more thing on the bottom right there.
Okay.
Chuck, did you have success getting into Electude?
No, I did not.
Michelle, go ahead.
I did have it try to sync up with my Canvas, but I still don't know how to do that.
Incidentally, Michelle, you should still have the same login for Electude. No, have you tried it? Oh shoot, sorry. All right, that's number one. Let me know when you're done.
Oh, I got a picture of it. So really
Okay.
quickly then, before I look at the list, so are we back on Electude then? Is that it?
Yeah. Uh-huh. No, not
Okay, so
instead. We're on Electude though. Yeah.
we will be. Okay, so it's the same sign on you said as last time?
Should be. Should
Okay,
be,
I'm
but
gonna look at,
I would have to have a student let me know that. All right, here's part 2
okay.
of page 2.
All right. Let me take a picture. Thank you.
Yep. All
Got
right.
it.
Here is part 1 of page 3. We made some good progress last week.
Yes, unfortunately I missed. Okay, got it.
Part 2 of page 3.
All right.
Golly, are you sure they're paying me enough? Because look at that. Okay, that's part 1 of page 4. Oh, actually, I can probably get the whole page. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Page 4. You got it?
I want to know what you know. Your hands in the way. I want to know what you talked about last week that you didn't want to record. No.
I forget, but it was pretty scandalous. So we had to make sure. Fire triangle. Yeah, that's gonna be part 1 of page 5.
Okay.
That's gonna be part 2 of page 5. Golly,
Right.
earning my pay here.
Yes.
Right.
You're like, what's her name? Rihanna? What? No.
There you go. Page 6.
Okay.
Okay.
And there.
That's it. Okay, so
good.
Before we get rolling, is any requests? Oh shoot. Okay, well, we're gonna have to move because we've got what 19 sessions left. 19 times 3 is 57. Thought I didn't know that, but I just went 60 and then I subtracted 3. So we're gonna have to get to stepping, and I'm going to suggest to you that you're going to need a healthy dose of Electude to get as far as we want to get this semester. So we're going to have to boogie. I'm going to have to leave out some details that you're probably going to have to supplement with videos from me or somebody. But let's get moving. Okay, so here's what I told the students today. I don't teach theory. I don't teach theory class. I teach practical class how to fix, service, repair, modify. The only theory I teach is what it takes to understand how to do that, and how to do that basically. So I'm not interested in theory. I'm not interested in philosophy. I'm interested in practice and action. Yeah. So while we are going to be dipping in theory, and as long as the schools remain closed, I mean, that's what we're going to do. Incidentally, I got a flyer from. Let me see. Incidentally, I got a flyer from Citrus. They are advertising because I got to tell you, the schools are failing. The schools are failing in the sense that they're not getting basic enrollment. There we go. Let me show you. Okay, you got a camera? Medium heavy truck just came out with a flyer today. And hybrid, which means they're going to run it just like University of Phoenix, which means they're going to give you lecture on distance learning, and then you're going to come in and do all the labs at one time, just like University of Phoenix, right? February 16th to June 11th, so you still got time. Now, folks, when you look at the median pay thing for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you need to understand that this is not even close to accurate for the LA area. This is for everywhere. So this is like averaging in all the people in Nebraska, where you can get a 2-story house on 5 acres for 200 grand. So my students that went through my program and then went through the Caterpillar program at Citrus were making $19 an hour to start, and they had all those tools provided for them. So yeah, this is not really indicative of what you could expect, because unions paying people what, $45 an hour to be mechanics. Now, you might want to think about joining the union. That's the Teamsters union, because number one, 25% of this industry is retiring in the next 5 years, and also because the pay and the work seem to be a little more consistent. And you tend to not get abused for your craft as much. Jerry Witt, we haven't talked to Jerry Witt in a long time, but I texted him around Christmas. I guess they're working like crazy. If you look at the shelves, they must be. So Citrus is a factory, Caterpillar and Cummins factory school. And I got to tell you that this stuff, this looks very demotivating, but this is not the type of salary you would expect from LA area. Like I said, 19-year-olds making, $19 an hour, which is pretty close to that. Also, now in the state of California, if the shop does not supply tools, they have to pay you twice minimum wage. Minimum wage is what, $14 an hour now? So they would have to pay you $28 an hour, which is why many of the shops now are supplying tools. Well, are they supplying the good tools? Well, Caterpillar is, but many shops are not. So what it does is, when you go to like Citrus orientation, they say, well, you got to plan on buying like $40,000, $50,000 worth of tools. And like, I think it's a big mistake, because half the students are like, I could never come up with money like that. Well, the thing is, many shops in the state of California, now they're supplying the tools. Problem is, they're not supplying really good ones, most of them. But it's just a thought. If you started off at one of those shops, you could work while you slowly build a toolbox. You're not expected to have all this stuff at once. So anyways, intro to maintenance and inspection, no prerequisite. I think that'd be an interesting class. I did take medium truck electrical too. That was fantastic. I also take the HVAC class. Interesting, because one of my students is taking the HVAC class at Mount Baldy, and he said indeed that 2/3 of that class is straight out of my notes, because the teacher actually called him up and said, "Who the hell taught you all this stuff?" And he said, "Oh, Rockcliffe."
Wow.
That's right. Yeah, that's what we like, right?
Yeah,
That's what we
good.
like. Yeah, that's usually my name is not included in conversations about congratulations. So there's that. So let me go back. Sorry, let me go back wherever I am. And let's get you what you need to know about electrical. I am going to refer you to a whole bunch of videos in this section. I don't know where the new people are or what's up with that, but it's dumb. I got to tell you, the HVAC class, my RP class has got like 10 people in it, 10 students in it. The HVAC class has got like 16. The welding class that usually has 50 students plus 50 on the waiting list has got like 16 students. It's really dumb. It's like they've all given up.
And so there's no risk of those closing? They're just allowing them to stay open?
No, they ain't gonna close nothing this year, because now everybody's got the promise of government making up the shortfall. Did you catch that, Vadim? Yeah. What do Biden's talking about $2 trillion in stimulus. Yeah, it's mostly going to go to make up shortfalls like that.
Yeah, but just wait. Also, all this people cannot evict people, but soon they will be able to evict after March. Like landlord cannot evict tenants till
Oh, geez,
March.
really? Oh,
So
yeah.
not only, but people they don't pay their mortgage, there's forbearance, and then they're gonna have to pay everything lump sum. So imagine people they don't have $2,000 a month to pay mortgage. Suddenly they're gonna have to pay for like 5 months at a time. Yeah, so they're gonna be soon a lot of houses on the market. It's gonna help to the inventory.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
We need to chill, dude.
But-
I'll take you to freaking Logan's and we can have a talk about,
that's
fixing
what I
cars
studied
and
in my life, man.
getting mortgages, right? Quack. Okay.
What is the market going to be busy then and low?
What's it? What?
When's the market going to be good and low?
Well, when the price is gonna be low and there's gonna be more inventory in the market, because now it's a
Yeah.
seller's market. It's all about like supply and demand. Yeah, so
It
there's a
really
lot of demand, but little bit of supply.
Yeah.
Also,
All
there's
right.
no new development because there's lumber is really expensive right now.
Yeah, and hard to find too.
Correct?
Okay, so electrons. This right here is called an atom. It is the basic building block of nature, and I don't really care about it. I care about one thing about the atom. I care about the electrical status of the atom, because you've got the nucleus here, and the nucleus is the part that the electron rotates around, orbits. And the nucleus has two parts. It has the blue part and it has the white part. The white part's called the neutron, and that has no charge.
Mm-hmm.
And the blue part is the proton, and that has a positive charge. Now, as I say, I don't teach theory. I'm not going to teach nothing that you don't need in order to understand the electrical going on. Well, the electron has a negative charge. Now, we know that from magnetism that like charges repel and opposite charges attract. So what's happening is this is orbiting the nucleus just like a planet is orbiting the sun. In most atoms, especially atoms where they're considered to be at balance, there's an equal number of positive and negative charges. That's considered to be stable because it's relaxed. It's not trying to get back to equilibrium, right? If we have a whole bunch of more negative charges than positive charges, the atom wants to get back to equilibrium. Just like if I pick up a hammer or if I pick up a caliper, it wants to get back to its lowest energy state, which would be on the floor. So if I put this on the table and I came back in 2,000 years, it would be on the floor, because everything wants to get back to its lowest energy state, right? We see the mountains up in Rancho Cucamonga, and we see the big alluvial fans because basically what's happening is all the rocks are tumbling down from the mountains and spreading out. And that's why if you go up Haven, it goes like this all the way down to, well, hell, all the way down to about the 60 freeway, I think. Okay, so everything wants to get back down to its lowest energy state. And the lowest energy state for an atom is having equal numbers of positive and negative charges. Why do we care? Because electricity is the flow of electrons. That's all. That's the only reason I care. And the only reason I teach it like this is because it's the only way I can remember it. Electricity is the flow of electrons. And electrons are what we call charged particles. Incidentally, there's a movie called The Current Wars about Tesla and Edison and Westinghouse. Nobody likes what I like, but I thought it was pretty good. I saw a movie called King of Staten Island. I thought it was pretty good. Whatever. I probably shouldn't say that because then you'd figure out what I like. So electrons are charged particles, by which I mean to say they have negative charges. Protons are charged particles. Protons are charged particles. They're just charged opposite. Now, the important thing about charged particles is that they can be pushed around and pulled around by other charged particles, or charges themselves, or magnetic fields. That's huge. And that's the important thing that we need to understand when it comes to electrons. Electricity is the flow of electrons, man. That's all it is. All these charges run down the wire. Okay. How do we get them to run down the wire? Well, how do you get water to run down a pipe? Pressure. Ah, how much water running down the pipe? Well, we call that flow. Well, in electricity, we have a special name for flow, just like we have a special name for electrical pressure. So all we have to do is we have to learn, you know, four new words in a foreign language: voltage, current, amperage, resistance, watts. Yeah, it's not that complicated. We got to not freak out about it. But this is the kind of stuff I don't think you can learn this on the job. I don't think you can learn this on the job. I think you have to sit down and actually study this, you know, because, you know, how are you going to learn about atoms on the job, you know, with a very powerful microscope? No. Okay. So anyways, electricity is the flow of electrons, and electrons are charged particles. That means they can be pushed around and pulled around by other charges and magnetic fields. That's huge. So let's see what's going on here. Well, stable atoms have equal numbers of positive and negative charges. So that would mean that there were equal numbers of electrons and protons. Now, you'll notice I said stable atoms, which gives you a clue that there are unstable atoms. Yes, there are. Now, atoms. See, I'm trying to condense this. So actually, this is the first time I've ever tried to teach it this fast. So let me know if I'm going too fast. Atoms with unequal numbers try this, numbers of protons and electrons are called ions. Now, you've heard about the ionic breeze, blah, blah, blah. You've heard the word ion before. Ionic pentameter. That's a stupid joke. Yeah, it's a college boy joke. They're called ions. And that means they either have more protons than electrons, or they have more electrons than protons. Either they got one too many. Let's put it a different way. Either they got not enough electrons, or they got one too many. Either one of them has been taken away, or they got one too many. We can shove an extra electron into an atom, or we can take one atom away. That creates an ion. In fact, there's some ions you can make where you can take 2 electrons away, or add 2, whatever. That doesn't matter. The important thing is we can create ions, and it's these ions that create everything in terms of electricity. That's why lightning usually happens during rainstorms, I think. Doesn't matter. We'll find out. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I don't understand it. I don't need to understand it. I ain't going to take 2 years of chemistry to figure it out. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you this. When a mommy atom and a daddy atom love each other very much. No, it's a joke. When an atom has equal numbers of protons and electrons, it don't want to change nothing. It's at its lowest energy state. It's stable, and everything is right with the world. But when it's missing one of the electrons, it wants another electron to get back to stable. Kind of like the way I drink. That was a joke. Yeah, thank God I turned on the record.
Yes.
Okay, if it has an extra electron, it wants to get rid of it. If an ionic atom is missing an electron, it wants to get one to replace the one it's missing. If it has one too many electrons, it wants to get rid of that electron. And that creates a force. That attraction and repulsion is a force. And that force is called voltage. Didn't we already talk about voltage? Voltage is electrical pressure or they call it electromotive force, which is EMF. Sometimes you'll see it called EMF. La fuerza electromotivo, that's the force that makes electrons move. Because something, look, if I've got water in a hose, if I don't have pressure, it won't move. But if I have pressure, when I open up the valve, the water's going to move. If I don't have fuel pump pressure, the fuel isn't going to move, right? We use pressure to make things move, make things flow. Flow is created by pressure. Yeah? Now, for instance, I just went down 4th Street, west of Vineyard, 10-foot in diameter drainage pipes. That's how many people have moved into that area. Chuck, I don't know how long you've been in this area, but back in the 70s, there was nothing between probably Euclid and the 15 except a freaking strip club I remember was underneath the tree. That's all I remember about it. That's all I remember about it. But I remember I was a young lad at the time. I was very impressed. I said, someday, no kidding. Yeah. Ding, ding. You know what you should do? Michelle, I should give you a big bell. And every time I start saying something stupid, you should start ringing the bell, so it'll be like Pavlov. So anyway, the point I was trying to make was, yeah, better than me developing self-restraint. No, I should get one of those shock collars, that you train dogs with. Just like turn up the heat and start pressing the button. Okay, so there is a force inside the atom, right? Because it's got more positive charges than negative charges. It wants to get that negative charge so that it can come back to a lower energy state. It's kind of like if you have something teetering on a fulcrum, it wants to come back to a state of balance. Right? Like you're about to tip over on what? A skateboard or a sailboat? Sailboat wants to be sitting in the water with the mast up here, right? I will drink life to the lees. Tennyson's Ulysses. The lees, that's when the boat is at the maximum point right before it tips over. I will live life to the lees. Huh. Boy, I used to read books and stuff. So, yeah, never mind. I've said enough dumb things for the first 5 minutes. So, that force is called voltage. It's electromotive force, and it's the force that makes electrons move. We can create that. You know how we're going to create it? We are going to strip electrons off of certain atoms, and we're going to put those electrons on other atoms. So we're going to have a whole bunch of electrons that are missing. I'm sorry, slow down. We're going to strip electrons off of certain atoms, and we're going to put them on other atoms. So we're going to have a bunch of atoms that are missing electrons that want electrons back, and we're going to have a whole bunch of atoms in a different location that have extra electrons that want to get rid of them. Then we are going to create a path that allows those electrons to go back home. And those electrons will go back home. And we're going to make them travel through a light bulb, for instance. And as those electrons travel through a light bulb, the filament's going to start to glow, creating light. So, the reason I bring this up is because if you try to understand electricity without understanding this part, you have to memorize a bunch of stuff, and I'm too freaking old and stupid now, and I can't do it anymore. Yeah, so here's what I'm going to do. I got 2 plates. Square plates. They're made of plastic screen, and they got a whole bunch of lead smashed into them. So it's pretty thick, probably 1/4 inch thick. They end up looking like Pop-Tarts, really. but they're plastic screens with lead smashed into them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take electrons using magnets. I'm going to take electrons off of the atoms on this plate. Using magnets, I'm going to suck the electrons away, and I'm going to deposit them on this plate right here. So now I'm going to have a whole bunch of extra negative charges on this plate, and this is going to be way more positive than it is negative. How can I make this easy to visualize? I have 2 jars full of equal numbers of black and white jelly beans. As I take the black jelly beans out of this jar, the jar becomes more and more white, to the point where if I take all the black jelly beans out of this jar, this is going to end up being pure white. And this jar is going to be much, much blacker, right? Get it? So I'm going to strip the electrons off of the atoms on this plate, which everything's made of atoms, right? So if I have a 4 by 4 inch plastic plate covered with lead, there's a lot of atoms, amazing numbers of atoms, like quadrillions of atoms. And I'm going to strip the electrons off as many of them as I can, hopefully all of them in a perfect world. I'm going to strip all the electrons off, so I've got all these negative charges coming off of this plate. So this plate is going to have way more positive charges than it has negative charges. So you could say that in the aggregate, that's a positive plate, because these are all missing their electrons. Now remember, when an atom is missing its electrons, which have a negative charge, it wants those electrons back. Now, I've taken all of these electrons, quadrillions of electrons, and I've deposited them on this plate. So now this plate is predominantly negative. It's got way more negative charges than it's got positive charges. Well, what did I tell you? These atoms that have too many electrons, they only want one thing in life. You know what they want? They want those electrons to get the hell away from them, because they're making them unstable, unhappy, uncomfortable. Now, why do I discuss it in these terms? Because I don't understand it any other way. And I think it's sufficient to understand what's going on with the process. So we're going to strip the electrons off of these atoms, which means they're going to want their electrons back. We're going to deposit them on these atoms, which means these atoms want to get rid of electrons. And then what are we going to do? I'm going to put a little bulb right there. And I'm going to provide a path for the electrons to go home. But they have to work for me. You know how back in the olden days, the coyotes used to make the migrants come in with like drugs on their back? That's what we're going to do. We are going to make the electron, we're going to give the electrons a path to get home, but we're going to make them do work for us. So we're going to create a path for the electrons to come home, but we're going to make them go through this light bulb filament. And as all those electrons go through the white bulb filament, you know what it's going to do? It's going to start to glow, because it's going to get hot. And when it starts to glow, the light bulb's going to light up. Now, I'm sure there's millions of people that understand this process better than I do, and I'm sure that there's a much more satisfying technical explanation, but I don't know it. And really, I think my stupidity on this part makes it easier for beginning students, because the simple fact of the matter is I've been doing this 42 years, and I haven't needed to know it any more than that. I haven't needed to understand it at any deeper level. So when I talk about this atom wanting its electrons back, I know that doesn't make any sense. I know it's stupid, but it does everything I need it to do, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Now, as I deposit more and more electrons on this plate, let's forget about this part, because this is discharge. This is charging. We'll deal with one at a time. Okay, so if I took one electron off of this plate when it was all stable atoms, it would be it would be a little bit more positive than neutral. But if I do that to every atom on this plate, it's going to be way more positive than negative. Same thing here. If I just put one electron on this plate, well, it's going to be mostly electrically neutral. But if I take every electron off of this plate and stick it on there, it's going to be way more negative than it is positive. So let's think of it this way. Here's the ground, and I'm digging a hole, and I'm taking the dirt and I'm putting it right next to the hole. So every shovelful of dirt that I take out of this hole, I'm going to be building a hill right here. And you can see that the more shovelfuls I do, the greater the distance in elevation is between the bottom of this hole and the top of this hill, right? So I'm going to keep on digging. And the more I dig out of this hole, the higher this hill gets, and the greater the difference in elevation is between here and here. Okay, now get a skateboard. See, because if I just take one shovel out of here and I put the shovelful right there and I put a skateboard on it, probably won't roll. Definitely won't roll that fast. If I just dig a hole this deep and make a hill that high, well, if I put a skateboard on it, it might roll. Not very fast, not very hard. But if I take all the shovelfuls I can out of this hole and stick them on this hill, now I put a skateboard on there, it's going to haul buns down that hill because the difference between the two has increased to its maximum possible amount. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to get this plate as positive as possible. We're trying to get this plate as negative as possible. And that's what creates voltage, or the pressure or the force that makes electrons move. Now, see, when there's a little difference, there's not that much force. When there's a big difference, I mean, you could think of rainwater if you wanted. You know, rainwater is not going to flow that hard down a hill with a slope like that, but the greater the slope, the faster the rainwater is going to run. The greater the difference, the greater the force. And that force is called voltage. So when we're charging a battery, we're going to take as many electrons off of this plate as we can, put them on this plate. That's going to make this plate as positive as we can get it, and it's going to make this plate as negative as we can get it. That's why when you charge the battery, the voltage goes up, because voltage refers to the difference between the two plates, the two locations. That's also why when you discharge the battery, right, all these extra electrons start going home. And these atoms, instead of being ionized and furious because they're missing electrons, now they're getting their electrons back, so now they're happy. Now they're stable. As a result, basically you're taking dirt from here and you're filling in your hole. As you fill in your hole, the slope goes from this to this to this to this. And as there's less difference between the two, there's less force to make electrons move. Force to make electrons move is called voltage. That's why a discharged battery has low voltage. A charged battery has high voltage because it's going to be proportional to where all these electrons are in this story. That's why we talked about last week about the first thing we do, no matter what electrical testing we do, we're always going to check the voltage of the battery, because the voltage of the battery is going to tell us how many of these electrons are over here and how many of these atoms desperately want those electrons back, and how many of these atoms desperately want to get rid of the electrons they have. Now, a lead acid battery, which is the most common type of battery in vehicles today, has the potential to create 2.1 volts of difference between one plate and the other. And we have a special way of stringing 6 of them together. 6 times 2.1 is 12.6, which is the voltage of a fully charged battery. Now, here's an easy way to think about it that's going to help you. Think of the battery as a balloon. If I blow air into the balloon, is it going to have more air, or is the pressure going to go up? If I put more air in a tire, is it going to have more air in it, or is the pressure going to go up?
Oh,
Both. Good. Good. See, I didn't understand this for years. I didn't understand how you could tell how much oxygen was in an oxygen tank because the only gauge it had is a pressure gauge.
Mhm.
Well, then I finally realized when I was trying to figure out how to teach this, I finally realized that the pressure in the tank is directly proportional to the amount of oxygen in it. Because the more oxygen you shove in it, the greater the pressure is going to be. Yeah, because it's a confined area, right? So the same thing is true with the battery. Fully charged battery, we talked about this last week. Fully charged battery. You know, Daryl Brown's supposed to be here. I wish people were here because I mean I don't want people. I don't. I'm nervous about people starting next week after that. You know, because this is a foundation. Well, they can watch the video, right? Good. Thanks for reminding me. Incidentally, welcome back. Fully charged battery is going to be 12.6 to 13.2 volts direct current. Just we'll talk about direct current later. Maybe not tonight, but we'll talk about direct current later. But just know it's 12.6 to 13.2. That means it can't be higher than that. Now, if it is discharged, it's going to be lower than that because if I take air out of a balloon or a tire, if I take air out of a tire, is it going to have less air in it or is it going to have lower pressure?
No, well, both.
Both.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah. Because the pressure in a confined area is going to be proportional to the volume, right? Because the volume, it can't go into a bigger space, so the pressure has to increase instead. Good. Now, how much of this do you need to understand on a theoretical level? Well, it depends how smart you are. I ain't that smart anymore. So as a result, I just try to think of it in certain ways that make it possible for me to get the right answers without understanding it on a technical level. I used to be smart, but you know, there's a lot of used to be's in my life story. All right. So, anyways, think of battery as a balloon. As we pump more electrons into the negative plate.
Can you that battery how many volts? I can see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh,
12.6 to 13.2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like we said last week, it's possible that something can go wrong with the battery causing the low voltage, but the first thing we're going to suspect is just that it needs to be charged. So let's charge it for a half hour or an hour, depending on how dead it is. Let's charge it on medium charge, and let's see if we can revive that battery. Because after all, we don't want to, you know, I just had this big old conversation with one of my students who's doing he's doing oil changes on Class 8 trucks with his dad. And they're starting to branch out into, you know, they got one of those Chinese truck scan tools, you know, the Nexuses, the one that I got for like $150. So now they're doing DPF regens, and they want to start. Well, there's a gauge on my dash that says battery. What do I do next? I'm like, okay, let me show you the importance of what I'm talking about, because one of the problems you have with distance learning is people think you're just talking about theory. No, I mean, I don't care about theory. What I care about is the ability to fix stuff. And if my ability to fix stuff hinges on me talking about atoms wanting electrons back, which I know is technically wrong, but it's the same thing. It's anthropomorphic terms, but it works. So, you know, let's do it. So the charge discharge cycle looks like this. Under charging, we're going to use rotating magnets to pull the electrons off of this plate and deposit them on this plate. That's going to make this plate more positive, make this plate more negative. It's going to increase the difference between these two plates. And in electrical, difference can be called voltage or potential. Okay, so as I charge this battery, the voltage of the battery is going to go up. Till you get to a point where it won't go up anymore. That means it's fully charged. Now I'm going to create a path whereby the electrons can go back home. Hey, why can't I drive a car to Hawaii? There's no path, right? I'm going to create a path, a low resistance path. So, but I'm going to make it do work on the way home, right? So I'm going to make the electrons go through a light bulb, or maybe I'm going to make them go through a motor or a stereo or a heater or whatever. It doesn't really matter. The thing is, I'm going to make these electrons work to get home. I'm going to make them work for me. And that, my friends, is how we get electricity to convert from a type of energy to real solid work being done. Questions, comments, thoughts on that? As I said, it's not an overly technical explanation, but it doesn't have to be. All right. So as we said, well, let's put it this way. All right. Well, people have a hard time understanding electrical because after all, it's invisible and you can't really tell what's going on inside the wires. So we have to understand it in terms that we understand better. Like my understanding of, atoms wanting their wayward children back. So what we do is we usually use what's called the water analogy. Why? Because most people have an intuitive understanding of how water works, or certainly a much more intuitive understanding of how water works. And after all, we can't see what's going on in the wire anyway. Well, a plumber cares about three things. Number one thing they care about is pressure. Because without pressure, you can't get things to move. Now, on the water supply side, Uniform Plumbing Code requires that you have 15 to 80 psi. Now, I believe I already explained psi last semester, and since everybody here from last semester, I'm not going to go into square inches, linear inches, and cubic inches because I don't think we have time. psi means pounds per square inch. That's a measure of pressure. That's a measure of liquid pressure. That's a measure of gas pressure. And basically, it's a measure of the force that we can use to make the water in this faucet, hose bib, whatever you want to call it, move. Now, when they turn off your water because you didn't pay your bill, that's going to shut off the pressure. That's going to shut off your connection to the pump. As a result, when you open up the faucet, you ain't going to get no flow. You ain't going to get no flow because without that force, you get no flow. Just like without gasoline, your car doesn't run. Or without a fuel pump, you will get no fuel to the engine. Or water pump or whatever, you'll get no circulation. Oil pump, if your oil pump's not turning, you're not going to get any oil pressure because that's what creates the oil pressure. And without oil pressure, you will get no oil flow, which means it'll freaking grenade your engine really, really quickly. So there's three things that the plumber cares about. Pressure. Now, that's water supply, 15 to 80 psi. What creates the pressure on the drainage side? Quarter inch per foot, right? Well, eighth inch per foot, some places, but quarter inch is better. What creates? Yeah, gravity, right? Gravity creates the pressure, which is basically saying that one side is higher than the other, so it causes flow in that direction. Woe to you who doesn't have slope in their drain piping, right? Because that causes all kinds of problems. So gravity on the drainage side and pressure on the supply side. Okay, so the first thing Mr. Plumber is going to do is he's going to check the pressure. He or she is going to check the pressure to see if you got water pressure. If you don't have water pressure, it could be a regulator issue, could be a problem with a city, could be, a number of things. The second thing that our friend the plumber is going to check is flow. And flow refers to, well, let's say pressure equals the force that makes water move. Flow equals the amount of water that moves. Now, flow is measured in gallons per minute. This is all review from last semester, so I'm going to blow through it pretty quick. Flow is measured in water in gallons per minute, which is a measure of volume over time. Okay. And then the last thing the plumber cares about is resistance. And resistance is opposition to flow. For instance, if your drain pipe is level, it's probably going to back up your plumbing because it won't have any force that's going to keep stuff moving. Opposition to flow. Maybe you've got galvanized pipe and the water has been there so long, 60, 70 years, that it's gotten through the galvanized and it's straight into the iron, which means it's creating rust. Okay, so what does rust do to the inside of your water supply pipe? Same thing that chicharrones do to the inside of your arteries, right? It clogs them up, right? Cholesterol, same thing cholesterol does. And as the cholesterol builds and builds and builds, it makes the passageway inside your arteries smaller and smaller, right? That's opposition to flow. That's what causes heart attacks. Yeah, heart attack. That's why cholesterol is such a big deal. Well, we have equivalents to all these things in the world of electricity. So, voltage is electrical pressure. So all you need to know about voltage is that it's a fancy name for the force that makes electrons move. Without voltage, no movement, just like without pressure, no water flow. What are potential sources of voltage? Well, in a car, it's primarily the battery, but the alternator is also a source of voltage. I mean, Hoover Dam, windmill, solar panel, these all create voltage. And since they create voltage, they enable the flow of electrons, which also has a special name. So let's finish this. Electrical pressure in volts, which is symbolized with a big old V. That's why if you look at a meter like this, you're going to see a big old V right there and a big old V right there. All right, the second thing is current, which is, oh, I also thought Jojo Rabbit was really good. Electrical flow. See, because what we're doing is we just have specialized names. Like every trade is going to have specialized names for things, like what's a soffit or what's a rafter. And these are just things you have to learn, or you can't play, right? If you don't know what a free throw is, you can't play basketball. If you don't know what a touchdown is, you can only play on the Browns. That was a joke. No, you can only play on the Patriots. I don't know. Why would I give money to people that hate me? The point I was trying to make was, though, that electrical flow in amperes, and you're never going to hear anybody call it amperes because that's a French word. What they're going to say is they're going to call it amps, and that's going to be the big letter A. So that when you find a beautiful meter like this, you're going to see that it has a big A on it. You know what? I'm thinking to myself that this freaking camera sucks. Now, this camera, the one that I bought myself, that rocks, right? That gives you a big old A right there. So, where's Rudy? I heard he bought a place out in Yucaipa. Happy to not be homeless anymore. Okay, so resistance. So this is what it is. This is the unit we use. This is the abbreviation. Same thing. Resistance is resistance. And it is in ohms, which is the Greek letter omega. Now, there's one more thing in electrical that we don't have in water, hydraulics, and that's power. I mean, we do have water power, that's for sure. If you ever seen the water come out of Hoover Dam, it's like, no, you don't want to be standing there when that happens. And when you see people getting hit by fire hoses, you say, I don't want that happening to me, that's for sure. Yeah, but I don't think there's a unit for it. In electrical, there is. Power equals energy used basically semicolon volts times amps, which is force times pressure
The current.
in watts. Big old W.
Can you
What, say what?
it again, please?
Okay. Power
Can
is
you repeat the
energy.
equation?
I'm sorry?
Yes, repeat the equation.
Okay. Power is energy used. In order to calculate the energy used, we have to know the pressure it was at and how much it was. So that's volts times amps, or pressure times flow. In watts, which is the measurement we use, which is why like a 120 watt bulb uses 120 watts of power, and it's also twice as bright as a 60 watt bulb that only uses half as much. That's why a 1,000 watt stereo is way louder than a 100 watt stereo, or 100 watt amps way louder than a 20 watt amp. Now, this is when we're required to have, some kind of understanding. Look, there's a lot of hippies that want to say, well, look, if we use less power, we'll all be better off. Well, yeah, but the thing is, if we use less power, we all have to go to bed when the sun goes down. Or we'll only have heaters that go up to 55 degrees. Or we'll only have air conditioning that goes on at 115, right? The power used is in general proportional to the amount of work done. Now we're talking about work. You got that? You got that? Let me know, because I'm moving and grooving. Okay. 3 ways. Boy, I feel sorry for anybody who's not here. Where the hell is Gabriel Alvarado? This is terrible. This is terrible. This is now people driving me insane. Anyway, 3 ways. I love humanity. It's just people I can't stand. That was a joke. 3 ways we know work is being done. I suspect I'm starting to get an idea about what I didn't want to say on camera, on recording last week. I'm sure I was angry about something. 3 ways we know work is being done. Heat.
Ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
Thanks. And motion. I'll tell you, the children of this country, the students of this country, are in complete free fall. Complete free fall. If a foreign country did this to our kids, we would be at war. anyways, my point was that 3 ways you know work is being done: heat, light, and motion. Okay, work, and we're talking about the classical definition of work, not the job you go to. Work requires energy. Now, there's different types of energy, right? There's chemical energy, nuclear energy, thermal energy, electrical energy, kinetic energy, potential energy, all kinds of different types of energy. So we need to understand a little bit about energy. Okay. Energy can be transformed, meaning it can change from chemical to thermal, like when we burn gasoline inside an internal combustion engine, or it can change from mechanical to electrical, of course. Like when we have an alternator powered by a belt on the crankshaft pulley. Energy can be transmitted through conductors, right? Conductors and wiring. Energy can be stored. You know, I looked at those solid state batteries from Toyota, and I think that's a pig in the poke. They're talking about all this stuff they're going to come up with 5 years from now. You know, the solid state batteries that they're talking about, those have to be assembled in a clean room by hand. Yeah, they're not ready for prime time. They're talking about, oh yeah, we're going to have all this stuff by 2030, right? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to have a speedboat and a mansion by 2030, right? It's like setting emissions goals for 2035. It's like people in Berlin, you know, in 1930 making predictions about the next 20 years. Energy can be stored. Like people after World War II saying, you know, we're going to have peace from now here on out. People will never, ever want to do this again.
All I
And
know is history repeats itself all the time.
right. And energy can be, yeah, I guess there's something about human nature that doesn't seem to be changing. Energy can be utilized. So that could be motors or bulbs or etc. But the homie Newton did say, and I quote, energy can not, golly, that was close. Energy cannot be lost or gained it can only change forms. When he wasn't busy discovering gravity and inventing calculus, he was doing the laws of thermodynamics and inertia. But by all means, I think everybody is equal, and we could all do the same thing if we were only presented with the equal amounts of resources. No, I would be honored to be in the shadow of that guy's pinky. I don't know how he did it, but that's amazing to me how certain people just freaking rock it. Can you imagine saying, well, we could all play basketball like Magic Johnson if we just had equal access to resources? I don't think I think there might be some other difference, right? We're all going to be the same height. So energy can't be lost or gained, it can only change forms. So what happens? We take the chemical energy in gasoline and we burn it in the internal combustion engine. We got all kinds of heat coming out the tailpipe that we can't use. We got all kinds of heat going into the cooling system that not only can't we use it, but it's causing huge problems for us. What we would want to do is we would want all of that chemical energy stored in gasoline, we would want it all to be pushing the piston down so that it can make the tires turn. But it doesn't. Okay, so what do you call that? What do you call that when you lose a bunch of the energy that you created through burning chemicals or whatever? What do you call that when you use a bunch of energy but you only make useful use of it or good use? You use a bunch of energy, but only part of it is doing what you want to do. For instance, why did we invent the chimney? Why don't you just put a fire in the middle of your living room? No. I mean, why did we build walls? Why is a chimney better than just having an open fire outside? Because it enables us to have a much more efficient fire. Why do we have a chimney instead? And why was a chimney such a radical improvement? Because it made fires way more efficient. Efficient meaning what? Efficient meaning shooting heat into the living room. You know. So I already spoiled it for you. The answer is efficiency. And efficiency is basically output over input. Now, Newton says that everything you put into it is going to come out of it. Sorry. Everything you put into it is going to come out of it. But the question is it going to give you anything useful? Is it going to give you what you want? Or is it all going to be wasted? I didn't get no stimulus check. Life is so cruel.
You must be making a lot of money.
Yeah. It's amazing how much my luck changed when I started working all the time. All right, so right here is a battery. That's a power source. Right here is an electric motor. And that's a load. These are technical terms for electrical. Now I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to connect to my motor. Now, what does a motor do? A motor turns electrical energy into mechanical energy, right? So I put electricity in this motor and it makes this shaft spin. Now, is 100% of the energy in this battery going to be making this shaft spin?
No.
No, because what's going to happen is this motor, if you put your hand on this motor, you're going to feel it's hot. Okay, that's heat. And there's also resistance in the wire that's going to make the wire hot. Okay, well, that's inefficiency because it's energy being used, expended, but it's not helping us complete our mission. And inefficiency is a big issue right now. Now, I'll tell you, I got trained so well at Citrus College that even though almost none of the technologies that I was trained in are still around, I still understand the modern technologies because I understood the fundamentals, which is why I teach the way I do. Because in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, there's going to be completely different technologies. So what I teach you is what remains the same. This efficiency is going to be a huge issue. And the gains in technology that we're going to find are going to be gains in efficiency, right? So now instead of writing people letters, we write them emails. As a result, it costs a lot less. You know, we don't have to have planes flying messages all over the place, or trains or buses or trucks. And stuff gets there way faster and much more reliably. So it's a much more efficient method of communication. Or you could say, you know, cell phones, or you could say texting or something like that. It's much more efficient. But I got to tell you, the server farms for Google or Facebook or something like that, they create insane amounts of heat, because those servers are going all the time. And all of these electrons flowing up and down the wires, the formula is I squared R, which means current squared times resistance. So these server farms, what Google and Facebook and all those, watch, now I get my freaking videos deplatformed. No, I mean in other countries. Love them, love them, love them. Love you, Jack, Mark, whatever. Where are these jackasses? The point I was trying to make was they put out tons of heat. That's why they're out in Utah and whatnot, where electricity is cheap and nobody, you see how much heat they're pumping out. But they're pumping out heat like crazy. Why do you think there's so many fans inside your desktop computer? There's at least two that I'm aware of. There's one right on top of the processor, because that's pumping out heat like crazy. That's inefficiency. And there's also one in the power supply, because your power supply is pumping out heat. That's inefficiency too. See, if these things were much more efficient, we wouldn't have to run fans.
Yeah.
So my point was that efficiency is output over input. What does that mean? That means if you work an 8-hour shift and you only get 4 hours work done, your efficiency is 50%. If you work an 8-hour shift and you only get 6 hours work done, your efficiency is 75%. The reason we bring up efficiency is because they do make more efficient electric motors, but what's true about them? They're way more expensive. Now that does mean you can put in smaller wires and all this kind of stuff like that. They do use a lot less electricity, but I got to tell you, the higher efficiency stuff is pretty much always going to be way more expensive. Like for instance, I used to be able to get an incandescent light bulb to light this room, and it would cost about 50 cents. Then all of a sudden it was fluorescent tubes, and those would cost about $3. Now I got this LED fixture that cost me like $60, but it uses hardly any electricity, and it doesn't get hot. Because after all, what's that heat? The heat is inefficiency. Because when I have a light bulb like this, I want it to create light, not heat. Now, this thing right here is called an incandescent light bulb. It's the old school light bulb. They made it illegal because, after all, land of the free and whatnot. It's going to be a hell of a semester. Okay, this incandescent light bulb, it does create light because the electrons flowing through the filament make it glow, I squared R. Yeah. But it also creates so much heat that your little cousin can put it in her easy bake oven and she can actually make cupcakes in it. Not Michelle Norman cupcakes, but she can make cupcakes. Or you can put it in your casita de pollos and it will make all your eggs hatch, right? All your chicken eggs hatch, I guess. I don't know. But it creates all kinds of heat, which me and Chuck know because we've actually dropped trouble lights on our arm that had these bulbs, and it was not awesome. It was not awesome. It made a sizzling noise, and it's like, who's making bacon? So that's true. So incandescent bulbs, insanely inefficient, but you know what? They were cheap. They're still cheap. They're cheap now. LED bulbs going to use a lot less electricity, but they're going to be way more expensive. They're like $10 a piece, $5 a piece, whatever, depending on whether you get them at Google or not. So when we talk about efficiency, we have to understand a few things. And that is, this efficiency comes at a price. And one of the reasons we have to get good at math, I mean, we don't have to be math majors, but we have to be competent at math, is so we can figure out whether it makes sense to get this more efficient product. For instance, the air conditioning compressor at my house, I started looking at these more efficient air conditioning compressors, and then I started penciling out how long it would take for this thing to pay for itself. And we're talking 20, 30 years. Doesn't make sense. Now, if you're no good at math, you know what you make your decisions based on? Your freaking emotions. Great. That's exactly what we need. A nation of toddlers voting. Explains a lot. It was a joke. Okay, so back to where we were. We see that there are 4 things we care about in electrical, and 3 of them are straight out of the water analogy: pressure, flow, and resistance. And in electrical work, pressure is called voltage, flow is called current, and resistance is called resistance, and it's measured in ohms. Flow is measured in amps, and pressure is measured in volts. Now, I got to tell you, folks, if I'm going to have you measure amps, I'm going to have you use something like this. Chuck, we looked, and Amazon will sell you a Chinese version of this for about 45 bucks. These things right here are about 120. It's weird. eBay doesn't sell used ones anymore. Everything on eBay is new. That is the Fluke 362. Freaking dynamite. Now, if you're going to get one of these, it's called an inductive ammeter because you don't have to take the circuit apart, which is huge. You make sure that it has DC amps. Doggone it, why is it not doing it? Come on. Huh, wonder why it's refusing to focus. That's very disturbing. Let's try that. You make sure it has DC amps because AC amps is for houses and factories and stuff like that. It's not really any use to us. What we need is one of these that will read DC amps, and we need it pretty bad because what it's going to do is it's going to enable us to do testing of charging systems, starting systems, lamps, bulbs, motors, all kinds of stuff like that. This is huge. You need one of those if you're going to be anything other than just a driveway, 1 weekend a month guy or person, I should say. Now, I showed you that Amazon is selling these for like $18. Make sure you get one that's auto ranging. So it's got eight choices here instead of 28. That's the key there. Make sure it's auto ranging, which means it establishes its own range. And basically all I'm concerned about at this point is these 2 V's. V stands for voltage. And I got to tell you, that's volts direct current. It's the volts that's associated with batteries. This is how hard it is to do voltage test. Here's a battery right here. Pay attention. Keep your fingers behind these rings. Those rings will keep you safe, right? Don't be doing this because you do this long enough, you're going to get nailed. Keep your fingers behind the rings. Now you can just go like that. And what do you see? 12.77 volts. Here's how safe it is to test voltage. If you come on it and put these leads backwards, it still says 12.77. It's just you got a negative sign in front of it. Voltage testing is very hard to screw anything up.
That's it.
In fact, the only way you can really screw something up is by touching these two together while you're touching power. Don't do that.
Question.
Yeah.
Okay, you have it with the V with the M on top. That's DC setting?
No, it's not an M. What it is a solid line with a dotted line underneath, signifying that there's a difference between the 2 lines. It's not an M, it's this. You know how when I draw DC circuits, a lot of times I draw the hot side solid and the ground side with dashes? That's what it is.
DC?
That's why I was sad about this stupid camera not performing.
Okay. And the
There it is. Yeah, see that?
Yeah.
okay, I see it now.
Okay. And the other squiggly line is for alternating current. That's for testing stuff like your house.
That's the top one.
Yep. Now,
Let's see. Okay.
just to show you. Oh. So I'm going to put this on alternating current because I've got this thing that comes out of my house. I'm going to keep my fingers behind these rings. Yes. I'm going to stick it in there. And if I'm not getting a consistent reading, I'm going to move it around until I get one. Huh. Why are you not helping me? Let's try this one. Huh. There we go. Huh. All right, let's try this one. There we go.
Yeah.
119.1. Nominal 120. 119.2. Now, since it's alternating current, it's constantly going positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, which means if I put the leads in backwards, it's just going to read the exact same thing. 119.1, not 119.2. And this number is going to vary based on how many people are using what loads at one time. Like, for instance, back when I used to teach electrical at East LA Occupational Center, we used to stick a voltmeter in. The class started, it went from 4 to 9 or something, 4 to 8 or whatever. And we used to stick a voltmeter in the receptacle. And we used to watch as everybody came home and turned on their air conditioner and started their washer and dryer. And you would watch the voltage go from like 123 to like 116 at about 4:30. It's cool to watch, right? Now it's a 118.5. Why did it go down so far? Well, someone started doing the wash or something. It's an old neighborhood. I don't know. Maybe someone's stealing my cable. That's probably it. Well, electrical pressure. Here's the good news, folks. That should be exciting for you. Electrical pressure is just like water pressure. The more people use the electricity, the lower the pressure goes. Just like if everybody opened up the faucet at your house at the same time, especially or if someone flushes the toilet while you're taking a shower. Right? Someone flushes the toilet when you're taking a shower, and the water pressure goes way down because part of it's going over there. So the good thing about the water analogy is it keeps you from having to understand a bunch of really scientific stuff, theoretical stuff about electrical, because all you have to remember is, well, how would water act in this situation, right? What would water do? So that's good news. The good news is, really, you don't have to have a super, super strong electrical foundation to navigate this pretty well. Now, when it comes to, electrical 2 or something like that, you probably better have it down pretty good. But in terms of being able to check a charging system or a starting system, you don't really need to be some freaking genius that's got a degree in electrical engineering. My teacher friend pointed out that when I took my stupid starter in to get fixed, they did charge me an hour of diagnostic time to find out it needed a starter. That is kind of annoying, but I mean, that's professional standards, right? I mean, you can't decry someone making their living. Look, they didn't defraud me. You know what? They replaced the right part the first time. That's as much as I can do. And they didn't try to rip me off. And they didn't break 16 things while they were fixing that one thing so that I could come in like 3 months later and say, hey, I need this now. Right? Look, you can hire any house cleaner you want, but the simple fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how good of a house cleaner they are if they steal your wife's jewelry, right? So there's other things we got to concern ourselves with other than price or competence at cleaning houses. We got to start thinking about, the whole picture. It's more difficult, but that's the excitement of adulting, right? All right, so let's see what we got. Voltage, current, resistance, and power. I only need to learn 4 things. Hooray! All right, questions, comments, because we're almost at 7:30. Questions, comments, thoughts on that? Anything I can do in 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about the new 24 volt systems that should be coming out?
They've been talking about that for years. They were telling us that we were going to have 40-volt systems 10 years ago. We'll see. We'll see. What are they supposed to be coming out in?
I don't know, but I noticed when I was looking at that Altel battery tester that it's built in to have the 12 volt and 24 volt and could read the cranking amps from 500 amps to 3000 cranking amps.
Wow, really? What number is that?
That's the Altel BT608.
I thought that was for TPMS.
No, that's another tool.
Yeah, I'm going to get one of those. VT608. The 24-volt system is for Class 8 trucks because the big diesel engines, they're running on 24-volt electrical systems.
I worked on my son-in-law's Cummins diesel a couple of weeks ago, so you run across pretty much everything, you know.
Right. So, I mean, it's good to be a specialist, right? I mean, it's good to be factory trained in one thing, but there's much to be said about being a generalist, which is to say, just what we used to call a mechanic, right? Someone who could fix a bicycle and who could fix a stove and could fix a car. There's a lot to be said, right? What is it? Nature hates a specialist. I forget who said that, Mencken or something like that, right? You should have a well-rounded ability, but the problem with having a well-rounded ability is you're not really good at. I mean, it's like being able to play a whole lot of instruments. You're usually not very good at any of them. But I mean, that's like I could barely play guitar. It's like people are like, well, why don't you learn how to play the banjo or the violin? I'm like, I already suck on enough instruments, right? That's how I felt about it. I mean, you can spread yourself too thinly. I mean, so who knows what the correct answer is, because so much of it depends on circumstances, right? When the economy is good and the society is stable, you can be a specialist because the society is stable enough to where everybody else can specialize in something, but when the burning times come and now all of a sudden everybody's panicking, you look at Yugoslavia. Okay, now all of a sudden everybody's got to figure out, well, can you fix a tractor? Can you figure out some way to fix all kinds of farm implements or whatever? And nobody really cares about your specialized BMW training because nobody's got parts anyway. Or I should say, maybe maybe you do motors, maybe you do Harley Davidsons or something, or Formula One race cars. Nobody cares about Formula One race cars. That's a luxury that only stable, rich societies can afford. Now, is being good at, for instance, drag racing. Let's say you're really good at drag racing engines. Does that transfer over to 2013 Toyota Corolla? So a little bit, but you ain't gonna know nothing about emission controls, right? You probably ain't gonna know much about electronic fuel injection. You're definitely not gonna know much about freaking oxygen sensors. Yeah, so that's the thing. Who knows whether you're supposed to be generalist or specialist? I mean, so much of our lives is just a gamble, right? We make the best decision we can, and we hope that it works out for the best, and over time, that's the best approach. Just keep after it, right? Keep working. So that's my theory. It's 7:30, folks. We got 15 minutes. I will see you in 15. It'd be a good time to give Rudy some hell. Because it would be good for him, now that he's out of his old neighborhood, it would be good for him to hang out with his friends. I'm recording. There we go. Okay, so if we're going too fast for you, or if you end up realizing that we've gone too fast for you, you can come back, watch the video, slow down. Did we ever do electrical on Zoom in this class?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, well, incidentally, Daryl got a hold of me, said, can I still join the class? I said, yeah, but then I just sent him a text. Where the hell are you? So I don't know what's going on with that. That seems really strange to me, but Yeah, I think enrollment is low all over, but to me, it's just okay. Well, when everyone else is staying home, it's time to get out, right? Yeah. When everyone else is staying home, it's time to get out. Like when all the power goes out, then it's time to go outside and look at the stars, you know?
In time to party.
Well, always. All right, so here we are. We are talking about electrical stuff, and we found out that the whole issue with electrical stuff is charged particles called electrons, and that electricity is the flow of electrons, and that we can make electrons move with a force called voltage, and the actual measurement of the amount of electrons moving is called amperage or current, usually current, and measured in amps. And the resistance to flow is just like the resistance to flow in a hydraulic system, except now it's measured in ohms. Okay, well, Rudy, you probably didn't hear they're going to dump another 150 grand in my shop. Probably going to blow out the wall on the west side of the classroom to, well, I should, never mind. Hopefully. So, exciting things going on. Could be great. Could be, well, gonna be great. Better than,
You
Right.
mean so you have a direct path from classroom to shop?
that too. Yeah, that too. That's on the east side. On the west side, it'd give me some place to put my trainers and stuff, so I wouldn't have all this stuff in the shop, you know, so I could actually have a shop that was.
Oh, so they're moving you into the wood shop too.
No, but we got to quit talking about that because we're recording. So, this is all speculation,
Okay.
but they didn't tell me no yet. Put it that way. All right, so we are talking about circuits. So let's talk about circuits. 4 parts. You know how I love to make lists. 4 parts of every circuit. And a circuit is what we use to provide a path for electricity to travel. And it's going to contain 4 elements. Number 1 is power source.
Power source.
And that could be a battery, Hoover dam, solar panel, could be a million things. The power source is what provides the energy that we're going to utilize in our electric circuit. Number 2,
Conductor.
conductors. And the conductors are going to connect all the parts of the circuit. Usually we're calling them wires, but conductors is the actual part that the electrons travel down. Number 3 is going to be the load. And the load is the reason we have the circuit in the first place. For instance, a light bulb would be the load of a lighting circuit, or a motor would be the load of a motor circuit. It's the reason we have the circuit in the first place. Number 4 is controls. And the controls could be overcurrent protection devices to keep the current from running away from us and destroying the circuit. Could be switches, could be volume knobs, could be a million different things. But what it does is it's going to control the flow of current in the circuit. Okay, so we've used the word circuit, and that's a specialized word. So let's make sure we understand what that means and what it refers to. 4 parts of every circuit. Power source, that's where we get the energy. Conductors, that's what connects all the parts of the circuit. Load, which is the reason we have the circuit in the first place. And controls, which is what controls the flows of current so that, well, we can turn it off when we're not using it, for instance. Okay, so let's look at a circuit. And let's start learning some of the symbols. Well, this thing right there, that's a battery. Now, I do want to point out that it has a long line, short line, long line, short line. You got to be careful because there's another symbol that has a long line, shorter line, shorter line, shorter line, shorter line. Looks like an upside down triangle. That's different. That's a ground. This is a battery. Long line, short line, long line, short line. Sometimes you'll see 4 long lines, 4 short lines. Anyways, I'm going to say this is a battery and it's got 12 volts DC, which is typical for automotive applications. Oh, sorry. Typical for automotive applications. There you go. And I'm going to come in here like this. And I'm going to put in there something that looks like that. And we're going to call that a fuse. And what the fuse does is it keeps too much current from destroying the circuit. Because as we've been talking about all night, I squared R. Current times the amount of resistance. It describes the amount of heat that's created. It's watts. It's the amount of heat that's created in watts. Watts is the unit. All right. That's a type of control. Then we go to this little thing right here. That's a switch. Yep, that's a switch. That's going to turn the circuit on or off, or in technical terms, we would say that's going to it's going to make the circuit either energized or not energized. Remember, we have to have energy to do work. A motor that's turning is doing work. It requires energy. How much? I don't know. How efficient it is. How much work is it doing? All right, so let's come over here to a beautiful bulb. Call that a lamp, whatever. And then I'm going to use the dotted line to come back here. It's called a circuit because it comes from the same Greek word as circle. So we look at it this way. So there's 4 classes of things we need to learn about if we want to understand electrical stuff. That would be power sources, conductors, loads, and controls. 4 classes of things, you know, but we shouldn't panic about that because after all, you know, John Paul, George Ringo, 4 things is not overly burdensome as long as we think of them as general classes. Well, while we're here, let's do that. We'll come in here like this, come in here like that, go there. And that right there is a wire. Now, why is it a wire? Well, because it's got 2 parts. This part right here is a conductor. And that conductor is usually going to be made of metal. In this industry, usually copper, because it's the good blend between good performance and being cheap. But its distinguishing characteristic is that it has low resistance. Hey, Chuck, what's the difference between buying an unpermitted house and a salvage car? You're muted, dude.
Carry the risk.
I mean, an unpermitted house can kill you, right? Just like a salvage car.
Yeah.
There is no difference.
Yeah. I mean, no, I'm not going to admit nothing. I ain't going to admit nothing. However, yeah, I'm just saying.
But he did get the back unit permit, just the kitchen is not permitted in it.
For 20 grand, you're going to put a kitchen in it for 20 grand and wiring and drywall and right, you got a good kitchen, right? Because
we'll see what it comes up to.
Yeah, I like that show.
The thing is, him getting his price down to where we can afford it.
Yeah, he don't want to sell it for that cheap, but you know, he'll probably find another sucker because you're too smart to buy that one. Right? I mean, it's easy to find suckers in a market like this.
We turned around and submitted our offer today and told them it's either take it or leave it. So,
well, the thing is, when the economy
he's either going to take what we're offering, and that be that, or we're going to walk away. Because I can always find another house.
Well, and they can always find another buyer. There's so many of them today, man. There is houses that one day in the market, I text them because I want to show them to my buyers. They text me, okay, we can't because we're overwhelmed with offers. And they've been just one day on the market.
Yeah,
Right.
and this one's been on the market since October
Wow.
with no bites.
So probably they priced it too high, you know? Probably
Exactly.
they priced it way too high.
Or everybody had an inspection and found out that
Yes,
stink bug.
because inspections meant, yeah, of course.
Yeah, just because there's a shortage of something doesn't mean you should buy it.
Yep.
Because the reason it's still left, there's a reason it's still left. I mean, if nobody's had a bite since October, there's something radically wrong. All right, so we are talking about wire, which has two parts.
And the property has a rebuilt title.
What?
Yeah, the property has a rebuilt title.
Is that like a retread tire?
I don't know.
All right,
But
so
Vadim would have to answer that one.
We
Well-
better have a title insurance in case someone comes with like reversionary rights for it, you know?
right.
I've got all that already, but I'm just saying it can't. They had to go argue with the city about getting the title straight on it, and the city issued a rebuilt title.
But you know, Rudy, you know, many people trying to move to Yucaipa those days.
Yeah.
Yucaipa actually in the future, soon they're gonna have the price gonna go up. Many people they're trying to move over there.
Houses don't last over here.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you don't build them right. The point I was trying to make was, we're talking about wires. We've got two parts in every wire. We got a conductor and we got the insulation. The conductor provides a path for electricity to travel, and the insulation keeps it from going anywhere else. Now, which is more important, that your kid goes where they're supposed to, or that they don't go where they're not supposed to?
They're both important.
Both. Yeah, both,
Both
right?
equally important.
Right. So the conductor is usually made of metal, in our industry, usually made of copper. And the distinctive aspect of what makes something a conductor is that it has low resistance to the flow of electrons. What?
I gotta say, one major factor. I thank you for pushing me into electricity 101.
Why?
Because otherwise I would never have caught any of this crap.
Right?
The GFCIs in the kitchen and in the bathroom won't trigger.
Nice.
They won't trip.
Very nice. Yeah.
There's no ground to them. How
Right.
could they trip?
Right.
It's like, if I didn't know better, I would have read that report and thought everything was fine.
Yeah, I like that show, Homes on Homes, where that home inspector dude comes in and they like, oh yeah, we had this house inspected and the home inspector didn't catch anything and it needs like $70,000 worth of repairs.
Nice.
Yeah, I just like it because it's not my house. It will be after I die, though. That was a joke. Pause recording. It will be after I die, though. Resume recording. That was a joke, Gavin. The point I was trying to make was the wire is surrounded. The conductor is surrounded by insulation, and that insulation used to be made of rubber back in Rudy's dream house. Or, hey Chuck, you need some flat screens yet? Because I got like 6 of them.
You never give me
It
that.
was made of cloth before it was made of rubber.
Okay, but they have to be mounted. I don't have stands for them. Well, I have stands for one. Yeah, I do. Okay, I'll have to go to Claro's and talk this over. Anyways, the point I was trying to make was the insulation used to be made of rubber, but rubber cracks when it gets hot and old, just like the rubber on your car, the hoses and the tires and the whatnot. So now we make it out of plastic. And the key characteristic of insulation is that it has high resistance to the flow of electrons, because we want the electrons to go down the path where we want them to go, and we don't want them to go anywhere else. So that's wire, conductor, and insulation, and that's the point of those two wires. Now, let me ask you a question. See, here's a river right here, and it's flowing freely, and then we start putting rocks in it. And we slowly fill up the river with rocks, and with every rock that we install in the river, what happens to the flow?
Goes down.
It
goes
goes
off.
down. Yeah, it goes down. Because
Decrease.
every rock represents more resistance to flow. And eventually, if you put enough rocks in the river, you end up with Hansen Dam, right? Where you got all these rocks and no river and no water will flow. right? So the rocks are resistant.
What is that dam that's over there by the 605 and the 210?
That's not Santa Fe.
That's
Santa Fe.
made of stone as well.
Right. Right. Man. So anyways, my point was that the more resistance you put in there, the less flow you're going to have. That's why we want to have low resistance on our conductor so that the electrons will go from where we have them to where we want them. Just like you've got fuel in your gas tank, but we can't use it there. We need it at the engine. So we use a fuel pump to create fuel pressure to create fuel flow to get the fuel from where we have it to where we want it. A 40-gallon tank in that Suburban, you put like $40 in it and it moves the gauge about a quarter to a third. It's fun to look at. But anyways.
If you get tired of it, you know where to send it.
Yeah, well, did you hear the cruel story of how I just spent another $1,000 on it?
No, what happened?
Yeah, because you were too lazy to change the starter, lazy guy. What the hell? You.
Not me, old man. You never told me you needed me.
Yeah, well, that's because I was afraid you'd bring another one of them cigars. It took me like 3 days to get my brains back.
I'll bring you over anytime you want one.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. That's why you got no invites. The point I was trying to make was that we're a month away from Valentine's Day. The wire, the conductors, is what we use to connect all these parts together. And we call it a circuit because it looks like a circle. Now, I just got to point out that unless that closed circuit, unless the circuit is complete, unless the circle is complete, we get no current flow, the lamp won't light, the motor won't run, none of that. As you can see right here, the circle is open, the circle is unbroken. And as a result, we will get no current flow. Now, is that useful? Is it useful to turn off lights? Yeah, sure. Is it useful to turn off motors or, dishwashers or garbage disposals? Yeah, it's real important.
All right, Rocliff. I got 5 of my 9 cars out here in Ukaipa now.
I went down that road and I decided it was the wrong road. Get rid of all these cars and get down to 3 or 4. It's like having 9 dogs. Too much to clean up after. So, not worth it. You get 3 better dogs. Right? It's just like kids. If you got 6 kids and they're all punks, you can like trade them in, sell them. You can get like 2 good
That's
ones.
what you have kids for. They clean up the dog.
Somehow this is not going the way I planned. So, anyways, actually it is. Hey, Monday is a holiday, right? Martin Luther King Day?
Yeah.
Yes,
Think
it
so.
is. Yeah, I need a holiday from my sweat and toil. Anyway, the point I was trying to make was, yeah, it is a holiday. That's good. Unless you're in Arizona. The point I was trying to make was that now we got to start thinking about how the voltage, pressure, the current, the flow, and the resistance interact. And they do. So do me a solid. In this class, you want to write down everything I write down.
Yeah.
You want to draw everything I draw, and you want to make your drawings pretty much the same size as me because I'm going to be adding a level of detail proportional to the size of the drawings. So I don't want you to make your drawings really small. Look, key rule number 1 is we're not here to save paper. That makes for a very inefficient note-taking project. Look, folks, I did very well in school. And the reason is because when it came to taking notes, I realized that my priority was taking notes for clarity, for study, for learning, for understanding. Trying to save paper makes you a freaking moron. It's like putting bicycle tires on a car and thinking, oh yeah, you save the gas I'm saving. Now, will you save gas putting bicycle tires on a car? Yes, but you know what? If you turn a corner, you're in trouble. Or if you try to brake, you're in trouble, right? So there's more important things than just efficiency, right? We gotta, when it comes to efficiency, when it comes to studying and taking notes, you focus on what's going to make it so you can maximize your learning, because after all, you maximize your learning, you make enough money to where you can buy all the notebooks you want. You can buy other people notebooks. Now I'm gonna, God darn it, I'll do it this way, just for fun. Magic triangles, there's 2 of them. All right, this one goes like that, this one goes like that. Sometimes you'll see them as circles, it doesn't matter. Jack-o'-lantern eyes. I never ended up getting no Halloween candy. This truly is cruel. This is Ohm's law,
Mm-hmm.
and this is Watt's law.
My favorite 2 triangles in the world.
Right? Not me. Mine is above the Triangle Club. See, EIR, and that's PIE. You mean besides the Illuminati one with the eyeball in the middle? The point
Oh,
of
I like these 2 triangles better.
what? The jack-o'-lanterns eyeballs?
Yes, because they bring me more money than the
Right?
naughty one has.
Yeah, you can buy all the candy you want. The point I was trying to make was this is Ohm's law, and this is the magic triangle. The idea behind the magic triangle is that you put your finger over whatever you're trying to learn, and it gives you the formula. For instance, E, put my finger over the E equals I times R. I equals E over R equals E over I. So let's write those down. E equals I times I equals E over R equals E over I. Now, folks, don't freak out because the examples I give you are going to be so freaking simple that it's going to be like 5th grade fractions. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of you on this. Now, when you get out into the world of fixing real cars, when you get into the world of real cars, are the numbers going to get more complicated? Sure, but I don't see any reason to make them complicated when you're just learning this stuff. The important thing is to master the process. Okay, so that's P equals I times E. I equals P over E. E equals P over I. So let's remind ourselves what E, I, and R are. Now, sometimes you're going to see this as V, A, and R, but that's the baby way. And what I'm afraid of is if I teach you the baby way, then you'll see the real way and you'll say, what's that? So I'm going to teach you the right way. And if you want to think of it in terms of the easy way, I mean, that's what we all do. But I don't want you to be shamed when you take classes elsewhere, which you should take air conditioning classes, right? We should be continuing ed for the rest of our lives, right? Because you never know. You never know. Okay, so E is actually E because that's short for electromotive force, which is short for EMF. Forza electromotivo, right? It's the force that makes electrons move. That's the pressure that gets created when you have a whole bunch of electrons on a whole bunch of atoms on this side that are missing electrons, and a whole bunch of atoms on this side that have extra electrons that they want to get rid of. That creates a repulsion on this side and an attraction on this side, which is referred to as voltage. Electromotive force, or voltage in volts. Big old V, just like that. So we're already reviewing stuff we did an hour and a half ago. All right, I. This is the only hard one. I. The reason it's I is because there was actually a point when the French used to lead the world in science. But it was a long time ago. Anyway, the French word for current or amperage starts with an I. So got to write this pressure. I'm not used to doing it in portrait format. Okay, current, which is flow, or amperage, which you'll never hear. They aren't gonna say amperage in America, and they're not gonna say amperes.
They're just going to say amps.
They're just going to say amp. And that's going to be a big old A like that. That's the only hard one. The E you can remember as electromotive force, and you'll say, oh, okay, that's voltage, yeah. Voltios. The good thing is this is all really easy to translate, right? Fuerza electromotivo, presión, voltaje, and voltios, right? Yeah, which is cool, which is cool. Me and Rudy spent many a night teaching this to people that went to school till about 2nd grade.
And the baby way he was talking about is it's E, A, and
No, it's VA and R. Yeah.
Yeah, it's VAR.
Yeah.
But that's the baby way. This is the correct one.
Yep. And you can do it the baby way later. I mean, but you can do what you want, whatever it gets you to do this correctly. Boy, this is dumb to miss today. Boy, it's dumb to miss today. It was dumb to miss. I mean, last week was a pounding good class too, but missing today is a huge mistake, man. Huge mistake. Anyway, the point I was trying to make was that's why we recorded it, right? Resistance.
Ohms.
All resistance is resistance to flow in ohms, which is the big Greek letter omega. So we got to learn.
What you talking about, Holmes?
Yeah, what's up, ohms? So we got to learn the abbreviations. We got to learn the units. So no big thing. P is power in watts. W. See, the weird thing is that Michelle didn't quit baking ever since we went to distance learning. So her house is stacked high with like all kinds of pies and cakes.
That's funny because it is. I have all the stuff to make cupcakes. I was just waiting for us to go back to class.
Oh, yeah, me too. Me too.
Sure.
You never know. It could be February or March, whatever.
Great.
Hey, just text me the address. I'll come pick some up.
Yeah. No, that's nice of you, Rudy. Stop by and pick some up. Kill the mouse. Do you have a dog?
No.
No, I'm talking to Rudy.
Oh.
Rudy,
Yes, my dog is currently in Claremont.
is it scared of mice?
Huh?
Is it scared of mice?
I doubt it.
My cat is.
Watch. You put it in the same room with a mouse. Pretty soon the mouse is teaching it to roll over and sit. What the hell?
My dog's a American Terrier Pit Bull. I really doubt that.
Okay.
Trade her a
Borrow
cupcake.
him.
Trade her a cupcake. Not for long.
Yeah, just a day.
It should be 20 minutes, right? Just
Hopefully.
throw them in the room and close the door.
Hopefully.
It ain't gonna take no longer than that.
Okay, we'll talk, Rudy.
Wouldn't with my dog. So anyways, the point I was trying to make was power in watts. Yep. So that's all you need. EIRP. That's all you need. So let's see. E equals I times R. Rudy's correct. You could think of that as V equals A times R. And P equals I times E. You could think of that as P equals A times V. Sure you could.
Our dear friend, Mr. Earhart, would say that's V over A times ohms.
Speaking of my good friend Earhart, is he still teaching?
You know what? I don't have a clue because I know Richard Slosson's still shut down. So,
Oh
if
yeah, huh?
he's doing distance learning like you are.
Right.
So
Nobody does distance learning.
you know what? I should call him and wish him at least a happy new year.
I should, huh? Nobody teaches distance learning like I do. If he was doing it, we would see his videos. So anyways, my point was, Chuck, did you do any of those ASE practice tests on the Chilton?
No, I have not yet.
Damn, you've been busy making money?
Yeah.
Good. That's good. You might need it for the storm coming quick.
Yep. It's coming. That storm is coming.
It is.
So let's see. I'm going to start just like this. Here's my battery, because I know it's a battery because it's got long and short. 12 volts DC, whatever. We'll talk about DC later, but we know what volts are. So I'm going to come over here, la, 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 and I here have a light bulb that has, let's say, 4 ohms. No, let's say 4 amps of current flow. Come over here like this. Let's get to work. Now, here's what I do. PEIR. This makes it so easy. And ever since the student taught me about this, which was about 2001, my life has been perfect. So let me show you. Well, we have volts and we have amps. So we could
You
do,
fill in the parts you know first, and then you figure out the rest.
well, E is volts. So I got how many volts? 12. Well, I is amps. So I know I got 4 amps.
4 amps.
That's good. Now let's do it the classical way first to make sure we know what's going on. I've got E and I've got I, so I'm looking for R, right? Because the triangle goes like this. So I need to find out R, so I'm going to put my finger over the R, and that tells me that R equals E over I. R equals 12 E's and 4 I's. R equals 12 over 4 is how much?
3.
3. Since resistance is in ohms, goes like that. Okay, now we got to do Watt's law. Watt's law looks like this. PIE. All right, so we already know E and I. Notice there's no R in Watt's law. We already know I and E, so we need to find out P. P equals I times E. P equals how much I? 4 times 12 E. P equals 48. 48 what?
Watts.
48 watts. Now that tells me everything that's going on in that circuit. That tells me everything that's going on in the circuit, which the cool thing about this is, as soon as you know 2 things in this circuit, you can calculate everything. Now, are the numbers going to come out this simple? Usually not, but we don't care because the important thing is to master the process. And while you're mastering the process, don't give yourself hard numbers. Don't. Make everything divisible by 2, maybe a 1, but make everything divisible by each other so that you don't end up with weird fractions or decimals like 1.7248, whatever, right? I'm going to purposely choose numbers because you can make up, problems for yourself. I strongly suggest it. It's how you get good at this. You can make up problems for yourself, but choose easy numbers because that way you can focus on the process, not on some hardcore math question like, what's 12 divided by 7 or something. All right, let's try another one. Comes over here like this. Let's see, 2 amps this time. Plus 12 volts DC, PEIR. And I will come down here. And I think the dog is eating my dinner. About to get killed. I'll be right back.
So how's everybody been doing?
Okay.
Busy and good.
All right, write down what you're given first. We know we got 12 volts, E, and we got 2 amps, I. All right, so let's get resistance first. R equals E over I. R equals 12 over 2. R equals what?
6.
6. There you go. 6 ohms. Yeah. All right. So we need to find the power. P equals I times E. It's just simple substitution, folks.
Yeah.
P equals 2 times 12. P equals 24. 24 what? 24 watts.
Watts.
Now, you should practice on that. You should practice on that. Because I'm going to show you an easy way that's 17 million times faster than this and easier. So you should practice doing it the hard way. I mean, this is actually the hard way. Want to do another? Let's try this. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you get that?
Hmm.
Ah, get that? Okay. Now you ask, why do we have to do these? I don't want to learn theory. Yeah, the reason you have to do these is so that when you have a bulb that's dim, you can start figuring out why it's dim, right? Because you can't do electrical troubleshooting unless you understand the relationships between these, and you can do just basic levels of calculations of this. And we'll do it again. Same power supply, 12 volts DC, goes like this. Come out here to another bulb. It could be a motor, it could be a heater, it doesn't matter. But now I'm going to tell you that it's 3 ohms. I'm not going to tell you the amps, I'm going to tell you the ohms, sorry. P-E-I-R.
Go.
Go. Always write down what we're given first.
So it's 4E, right? Maybe 4.
It's 4.
Yeah.
Now, the problem that Spanish speakers have with this lesson is that that's pronounced A and that's pronounced E.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Spanish speakers struggle with it, but you know, if that's your if that's your first world problem, you're doing all right. Okay, so I want to find out I. I is
If you're working with a Hispanic, you change it to V and A.
Yeah, you can do that. I equals E over R. So I equals 12 over 3. I equals coronavirus.
4.
4 amps.
Excuse me.
Coronavirus. P equals I times E. Zinc and vitamin D, buddy. Double up. P equals 4 times 12. P equals 48. 48 watts.
8 watts.
Should I show them the easy way? I think I'm going to show you the easy way. I am the easy way. All right, let's know the battery. 12
Easy
volts.
way.
What? All right, let's see. That right there is 6 amps. Now, let me show you the easy way. P-E-I-R. So you have to put them in this order. P-E-I-R. I got 12 volts here. I got 6 amps there. Now, here's the easy way, and it's going to blow you away because it works perfect, and it saves you 18,000 steps. All you have to do is multiply up and divide down. As long as you put the numbers in correctly in this order, all you have to do is multiply up and divide down. So 6 times 12 is 72. 12 divided by 6 is 2. That blew my mind. This revolutionized doing this kind of problem for me. Look, 2 times 6 is 12. 6 times 12 is 72. 72 divided by 12 is 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. That's groovy. I like that. I like it a lot. Yeah. Make another one. You get it? Anybody lost on that?
Nope.
Yep. Now,
Broke up.
whack.
12, 6. No, 12 and 8.
I'm just afraid of getting that weird number.
No. Ohms.
Right. You end up with a weird number.
I don't think so.
Well,
Because
I'll
every
prove-
time we did it, it came out easy.
okay, so I got 12 volts and I got 8 ohms. Just to keep Rudy happy. So he doesn't come to my house and blow cigar smoke in my face. Now, 8 times what equals 12? See, that's what I was trying to avoid, Mr. Kaufman. 8 times what equals 12?
1.2.
1.5.
Oh, what, it's 1.5, right?
1.5. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, you can thank Rudy, Dave. 1.5 times
Can you-
12 is what?
It's easy. It's only 1.5
Yeah, but you used
Amps.
18. 18.
18 watts.
Yeah.
So I like putting stuff in this order because it makes it really, really easy to solve. Oh, I'm sorry. It makes it really, really easy to solve.
I like that way too.
Yep.
Better.
I love that way because of it made my life so much easier when I was trying to do mobile electronics.
Yeah, because I mean, after all, I mean, there's most of us could stand to get better at math, and the problem with doing it the old-fashioned way is that there's a lot of math involved. This minimizes the amount of math, which increases the probability of you being accurate. All right, next one. Now, this is an alternating current power source. Got the little squiggly line signifying alternating current. This is 120 volts AC. All right, doesn't matter. I'm going to bring it over here to a bulb right here. This bulb is 120 watt bulb.
60 watts.
No, maybe next time. Now, I'm not going to put a solid line and a dotted line because it's alternating current. They're both the same. CEIR. So what are we given? We're given the wattage. And always include the units, folks. Do yourself a favor. 120 volts. Folks, I need you to see if you can get into electude because you should be able to. And if you're not, I need to do something else. Like, I don't know if the rolled over and you lost access and I have to send out a new set of invites or what. One of the problems, one of the problems I'm having with electude invites is, I don't know who's going to be here for class. So,
Same people that are always here for class.
well, yeah, but I mean, where's Gloria? I mean, there's a whole bunch of people, Gloria and Gabe. I mean, there's all these people that are missing. What the hell?
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe I don't know why, but I sent a bunch of invites and resend. So I don't know. Hope they're okay. Everybody get COVID. I don't know. So my point was 120 divided by 120 is how much?
1.
1 amp. Okay, so 120 divided by 1 is how much?
120
There you go.
resistance.
Good. See, you could work a lot harder and not get half as fast. I do like this. I do like it a lot. So like I said, as long as we know any two things about the circuit, we can calculate every other aspect of the circuit. Now, you would never see a circuit like this because it's got no off switch, right? It would just go on and on and on forever. Now let's do
You would
Rudy's.
go till the light bulb burnt out.
Right. Let's go to Rudy's ejemplo. El ejemplo de Rudito. Yeah, this was fun. Back in East Los, I used to have Rudy teach as part of the class. It was funny as hell. Because I'd teach it in English and he would teach it in Spanish. Everyone loved it, man. My class was packed. I would have like 80 students in class. I had more students in my class than every other CTE class on campus. That's nice. Just all because of Rudy, of course. Well, because what we were doing.
It's equal. You and I.
Well, I mean, the thing is, what we were doing was translating into prosperity, translating into jobs, translating into bright futures for students. Just like we're doing here. It's just people don't realize it, but you guys will, because David Burks, you're going to remember this freaking year you spent with me. You're going to remember.
Oh, yeah.
You are. And these problems are going to come up against you, whether it's home wiring or whether it's cars. And you're going to say, you know what? This used to stress me out. And now it doesn't because I know. Plus, you can always get a hold of me. Bring it. I'm going to be at Montclair for at least another 7 years, God willing. I don't, get super sick. So,
Or you guys can always get a hold of me because I'm willing to answer all your questions no matter when.
yeah, but I have the right answer. That was a joke. No, but I mean, like for instance, Rudy, right? I mean, whatever problems Rudy has with his cars, I need brakes, whatever. I need, light bulbs, or I need something to replace. I mean, he just brings it in. The kids work on it. It's like, okay, well, what are the kids supposed to be doing? They're supposed to be working on cars. We're not doing stuff that the students aren't supposed to do. I got to keep them busy. Okay, good. Bring some cars in. Yeah.
So they learn, right?
Yeah. And then we got to charge Michelle at least $1,000, because if you don't, it feels like she's getting ripped off.
Right.
Charge her 1,000 cupcakes. Yeah, quack. All right, so that's 120 volts AC.
Cupcakes are cheaper than dollars.
Where? Okay, first of all, it'd have to be a pretty cheap cupcake to be less than $1. Second of all, the kind of cupcakes Michelle makes ain't less than $1.
No, they're not.
Man.
They are to Michelle, though. I guarantee you. Right, Michelle?
What?
Making cupcakes is cheaper than spending the actual money.
I actually spend money when I make cupcakes.
But I bet in comparison, putting out the cash or
it just depends on who you're selling it to, I guess.
Yeah.
For us, for example.
You
guys I'll just make them for.
You can't spread cupcakes among the unworthy.
Yeah, I know, you can't.
In my experience, the unworthy tend to eat them all.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's none.
60 watts. Let's go. You done yet?
Okay.
Bonos.
What's this number? The one that's oh wait, I see it.
What the world? Good, Vadim, you want to buy my
so I don't know.
Yeah, so what do you want to know?
You want to buy my pre-CBS Strat?
The who?
My pre-CBS Stratocaster, my 63 Stratocaster?
Yeah, well, I play guitars, but I don't play them enough.
How
I know,
much?
but vintage guitars have gone way up.
This one that I play.
How much for it?
I don't know how much they're worth now, but I would suspect probably 12 grand, something like that, for a guitar. Ridiculous.
Pretty good one to buy for my son then.
The problem with me playing guitars is I'm not talented, but I'm very dedicated.
Oh, yeah, I like to play loud, just not good.
Yeah, I like to play. I can play like Black Sabbath pretty well, but if I'm going to play Pink Floyd, I just can't.
I can't see that number.
I made, see what number? The 100, the 60?
In the middle. Yeah, that one over there.
120, 60.
Okay, thank you.
So the power is 7,200 watts.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Correct.
And the resistance is 2 ohms.
That is very correct. Thank you, sir. Good. Okay, so here's what we can see. This one has the same power source, 120 volts, but it's consuming twice as much power. This bulb is going to be twice as bright as this one.
Cliff, you did that wrong. You put 60 amps where the watts should be.
That says 60 watts.
Yeah, but you
Oh, doggone it. Thank you, Rudy. See why I hate teachers. 60 watts. Doggone it. I'm sorry. All right, 60 divided by 120 is what? Thanks, Rudy.
Half.
That's correct. 0.5. Rudy to the day. Well, yeah, right. Yeah, right after I make the crack about the right answers. 120 divided
60
by
ohms.
what?
240. 240.
60.
240.
240. You divide it. If you divide by 2, it's 60.
Yeah.
But it's divided by
240
half.
Right.
Now, this one has 1 amp of current flow. This one has a 0.5 amp of current flow. This has twice as much current flow. Why? Because it's got half as much resistance. See that? So we want to compare these circuits so that we can understand the relationships between the different parts. And for instance, what do we use to control the amount of current in a 120 volt circuit? The resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good. Now, let me just point something out because I think it's useful. Here's 240 volts, and I'm going to come in here to 120 watts, PEIR. Go ahead. I quit drinking caffeine. Oh, Chuck. Oh my God. Okay, so Chuck, did I tell you the adventures of me getting a torque wrench? Rudy, do you have a snap-on torque wrench? Goddamn, this will
Yes,
piss
I
you.
do. It came from you
Did you
back
ever
in
pay,
East LA.
you ever pay for it? That was a joke. Okay, so Chuck, so I've been trying to get snap-on torque wrenches.
No, you gave it to me.
Okay, check this out, Rudy, because I've been trying to get snap-on torque wrenches. So I ordered a snap-on torque wrench from eBay. I didn't notice that it was in kilograms per freaking meter or whatever the hell it was. So I was pissed about that. So I ordered another torque wrench. This one was in Newton meters. God damn it! I wanted one in foot pounds. So I finally paid attention, eBay, and I got one in foot pounds. Okay, so now I've had to buy 3 snap-on torque wrenches to get the one I wanted. So I'm in the pawn shop on 4th Street in Ontario, and I see a snap-on torque wrench, and I'm like, and it's priced at $120, and I'm like, damn, that's cheap for a snap-on torque wrench. So I said, how much do you take $100 for that torque wrench? He said, yeah. I said, sold. And I got the goddamn thing home, and it's in inch pounds, 2,400 inch pounds. So it'll do 200 foot pounds, but you got to do the conversion. So I presently have half-inch drive snap-on torque wrenches in every unit known to man.
Only you, Rocliffe. Only you.
Right. It's hard. Once you get money, it's hard to stay careful with it. But you guys stay careful because once you let go of the control of money, you end up learning why you shouldn't have. All right, so we got 240 volts here. I got 120 watts here. So let me ask you a question. This 120 watt bulb and this 120 watt bulb, which one's brighter? Sorry. Which one's brighter?
The 240 volt.
Nope, they're exactly the same. They're both consuming the same amount of power, right? It takes energy to do work. They're both doing the same amount of work. Therefore, they're equally bright. Now, the 60 watt bulb is half the brightness of either of these 120 watt bulbs. But whether it's 120 watts at 12,000 volts or 1 volt, as long as it's got the same power consumption, it's going to give you the same brightness. 120 divided by 240 is what? 0.5. 240 divided by 0.5 is what?
480.
480 is correct. Good. Now, let me point something out. I've got the same circuit here. I got a 120 watt bulb, same load, except I'm using 120 volts here. I'm using 240 volts here. Please notice that when I double the voltage to get the same power consumption, I only use half as much current. Now, I squared R, right? Half as much current. Now, if I need to flow a lot of water, speaking of 4th Street, they're putting in a 10-foot diameter drain pipe. That's freaking huge. What do you need a big pipe for? So you can flow a lot of water. If you want to flow a lot of electrical current, what do you need? Big conductor.
Wire.
Big conductor. Good. Now, wire's kind of expensive, right? So wire size is going to be calculated based on the amount of current that flows down that wire. One of the reasons people like to wire stuff at 240 volts is because it enables you to cut the wire size in half. Because now this 120 watt bulb, instead of drawing 1 amp, so if you had 15 of them, they would draw 15 amps. Now this only draws a half amp a piece. So now if you had 15 of them, they'd only draw 7.5 amps. You can use smaller wire. You save on the copper. It makes it more efficient. However, it is 240 volts. They ain't gonna let you put this in your kitchen unless they're putting it in your stove. They'll do that. They'll put it in your water heater. They'll put it in your electric heater. They'll put it in your
washer and dryer.
Your dryer, not your washer.
No, some of the washers are now coming in 240 now.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I've been looking.
For home use or commercial?
Home use.
I heard the key was to get commercial stuff.
That's the best way. If you can get your hands on it, the commercial ones will last you till your kids are old.
Right. Plus, they'll actually get the clothes clean. Efficiency, right? Freaking hippies.
Yep.
Freaking hippies. You know how long-haired the hippies are? Always
Yeah.
trying to make clothes not get clean. So what determines how much current flow we get in a 120 volt circuit? The amount of resistance. So we can change the resistance in the circuit and we can control how much current flow there is.
Mhm.
Now, could we vary the amount of resistance in the circuit and make this bulb go brighter and dimmer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what a variable resistor does. It's a resistor, so it cuts down on the amount of current, and it's variable, so it could cut down on it a lot or not cut down on it at all. That's another form of control, a variable resistor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a dimmer switch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. That's a fuse. Because we're going to talk about controls now. That's a fuse. A fuse is an OCPD, an over current
Device.
protection device. Man, remember when that, never mind. It was a great song though. Remember when Candy came out? Don't, 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 don't. The other song, Cameo.
yeah, I know.
Word Up.
Mhm.
Man, those were the days. Golly. Yeah. Or you could have whatever that idiot that did WAP
Hey.
was.
But did what?
WAP, you know. Cardi B. Yeah.
Oh, I don't really,
I'm glad as hell that I grew up in the Cameo days, not the Cardi B days.
right?
Golly. Okay, so overcurrent protected device. Dave knows what I'm talking about. New edition.
Well,
No cameo.
I'm glad I
Taking you
grew
back,
up in
man. Taking you
Tupac
back.
days.
The chair is just a chair. Okay, the point I was trying to make was that overcurrent protected device. Well, what it does is in the name, it is going to protect the circuit from too much current. Because like we said, a lot of current requires a big wire. Current conductor size is based on current flow. So you may have a wire this big for your radio, but you're going to have a wire I've been really trying. Man, those thems was the days. When I was your age, Chuck, that's what it was. This right here would be for your starter. Man. Now,
Or your system.
yeah, anything that flows a lot of current. Because one of the problems we have with 12 volts is that the voltage is so low that we have to flow a lot of current, means we have to have big wires. You just see the size of the wires on Matt Jordan's 7.3 diesel. He's got dual batteries, and the size of the freaking battery cables is huge, huge. It's about twice the size of car battery cables. And now he's got to replace them, and it's like
They're
400.
zero watt.
Yeah, now he's got to replace them. It's like
Jordan
400
to come
bucks.
over here and I can help him do it a lot cheaper. Just get a roll of zero out of some freaking terminals.
Well, I'll let him know. Okay, so if we have a small load, 0.5 amp, we can use small wire. If we have a big load, we got to have big wire. That's why I got a little intuitive, instinctive thing for you. You can tell how much current is flowing through to a certain load in general by looking at the size of the wire. For instance, a fuel pump takes 30 amps. It's going to take a wire that's medium size. A starter motor takes 250 amps. It's going to be the biggest wire in the car. The wire going to the alternator, it's got to be rated for 120 amps. So it's going to be a
Next
little
to
bit
your
bigger,
system wire.
right?
Your amplifier wire may be bigger than your starter wire.
Or the wire to your tail lights is going to be small because it's just a small amount of current. Now, while we're on that topic, since I know you looked at these and looked askance, there's two types of wire. There's this type. That's called solid wire because there's only one big solid chunk of copper. Problem is, it doesn't bend very well. It doesn't do very good under flexing, and it's hard to terminate, by which I mean it's hard to put connectors on and have them live correctly. Now this was invented by Anna Maria's great-great-grandfather.
Okay. You mean Epimenio? No.
That right there is called stranded. Yeah, they dropped the D when they came to America.
Oh,
The D is silent.
yes. Actually, funny, they dropped the E and it's strand in Norway.
Ah, there you go. Okay, look, this is a stranded
course-
wire. Instead of
Of
having
course,
one
not
big,
my grandfather. but-
instead of having one big wire, now we got a bunch of littler ones. That makes it much more flexible. Every wire in a motor vehicle is going to be stranded wire. Why? Because it's considered a high vibration environment and stuff has to move around. You do that, okay, this is what you use in a house, inside wiring, because after all, it's not going anywhere. But if you start wiring a motor, you have to switch over to stranded wire. Stranded wire is harder to terminate, but it's going to last a lot longer in an automotive application, and that's what makes the wires flexible.
What do you mean by terminate?
Terminate means put ends on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, in cars, we solder a lot of stuff.
Or to
You don't do-
connect.
Yeah. In cars, we solder a lot of stuff. In industrial applications and residential, we don't do soldering that much. Stranded is often hard to terminate because it's flopping around all over the place. Plus, warm, cold, expand, contract, expand, contract. It's got certain issues. That's why they use solid wire, because it's so much easier to do. You can just put it under a screw and tighten it. Right? You put stranded wire under a screw, it just goes. So it's harder to terminate, which is to attach it to a device or power source, whatever. All right. We're getting there, folks. We're getting there. So we're talking about controls. A fuse is an overcurrent protection device. It's there to protect the circuit from too much current, because too much current, I squared R, it's going to create heat. And that heat is going to see this little copper, which is a soft material, and it's going to see this plastic insulation, which is a soft material. You get enough heat, it's going to melt both of those. And I got to tell you, if it melts the insulation and the juice that's in these wires touches the frame of the car, you'd be lucky to have a fire. I remember I had a 65 Malibu SS. I put the battery in the back, and I did a particularly ferocious burnout, and the freaking battery fell over on its side and filled the passenger compartment with smoke. Really dumb, really dumb, because I didn't have it strapped down correctly. I was 18, whatever. Really dumb. Anyways, the point I was trying to make was, if the insulation gets cut and this goes to battery ground, chassis ground, there's no fuse on this. So it would just, basically burn the car down. My beautiful 65 Malibu SS. Thank God that didn't happen. So my point was, that's an overcurrent protection device. Fuse is not the only
Always
overcurrent
strap
protection
down
device.
batteries.
Yep. Got to be careful about this stuff, folks. It's for real. That's why it terrifies me, man. I keep getting all this pressure. Hey, yeah, get those 14 and 15-year-olds out there working on live vehicles. I'm like, maybe you don't appreciate the tremendous liability and risk you're putting everybody at, with that idea, right? If I got a 14 or 15, and there are 14, 15-year-olds, I'd love to have work on cars. But if I'm going to have a 14, 15-year-old working on cars, they're going to be certified, well observed, and evaluated by me. Not because they're inherently bad, but they're kitty kids. I mean, we ain't playing, man. I mean, look.
Could have had a bad day with their girlfriend and then burn your car down.
Well, it's worse than that, right? Because if you conjugate a verb incorrectly in Spanish, you get -5. But if you don't tighten a lug nut in my class, people die.
Right.
Right. So it's like people think, oh yeah, take auto, easy, simple, like basic level class. No, my class is the hardest core class on campus.
It is hard.
It's got the most at risk,
Yeah.
potentially the most dangerous. Nobody ever gets hurt in my shop
That's because you're careful.
because I'm freaking paranoid.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the difference between a fuse and a circuit breaker? A fuse you have to replace. A circuit breaker is resettable.
Can reset.
Yeah. Some of them automatically reset, but yeah, circuit breakers are reset. Circuit breaker is what you have in the wiring of a modern house. Now, old school fuse looks like this. Gonna say one.
There's one even older than that.
Sure.
There's the ones that are in the bug, the ceramic fuses.
Yeah, but I'm talking about real cars.
Oh.
Hey, VW bugs are real cars.
I love that car.
You should sell it to Chuck. Chuck loves
Wait, my
Volkswagen.
bug and the Dart are sitting in Whitewater right now.
Okay, Chuck.
Yes.
This is an intervention. Rudy has a 4-door 67 Dart that he's saving because he cherishes it.
No. 72 Dodge Dart.
That's worse.
69 VW bug.
What is that?
6-cylinder.
What year is your bug?
69.
69, the best year ever.
It's the year I was born.
I thought that was 59. I wasn't saying I thought you were born in 59. I thought the best year for bugs was 59.
Oh, I know.
Sorry. Yeah, I was like,
I know. Yesterday was my birthday too.
okay. Oh, you're just a little kid. 15. Wow, you don't remember.
I don't feel like a kid.
You don't remember a lot.
I know.
At least you're not a boomer, so that's it.
Right? Okay.
All right, that's the new style. These are fuses.
Jesus.
Getting there. So can I go ahead and sign up everybody here for Electude and just assume that you're going to be here for a while?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because it is an important program.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Can you what about Electude?
Sign you up for Electude. Yeah. Okay. Can you try to log into Electude and let me
Okay.
know if it works? Because it should.
So, and you try with the sign on from last time, right?
I don't know if it kicked you off,
Okay,
but I
all
did.
right, I'll try. And if it kicks me off, what, just email you or what?
Yeah, let me know if you can't log in, because then I'll have to do the whole
Okay,
mass invite send again. All right.
you mailed that invite for like the Canvas or what, Instructure or whatever?
Yeah.
And I can get on that. It just doesn't let me get on. Do I have to do it all over again, like sign on like new?
Thanks for letting me know, because is anyone else having that problem? Because what happened before is that the permissions were set wrong. So thanks for letting me know. Folks, if you have a problem, it's important that you let me know as early as possible so that we don't waste a bunch of time lacking functionality.
Instructor canvas, yeah, it doesn't recognize one or the other, my email, my sign on, but I
Okay.
can't figure it out. I try to change it. I thought I changed it and I still can't get on. So I don't know
No.
what's wrong with it.
It
because
won't.
I even changed my passcode.
It's because the permissions are set up for high schools. So as a result, it will only allow CJUHSD addresses. So what I have to do is I have to reset the permissions so it'll allow CJUHSD plus permitted addresses, which is you guys. So thanks for letting me know. Like I
Okay,
said,
because it gave some sort of like, yeah, it gave some recommendations like to go to like not take it from the email, but to go to the website. And I tried that and it still didn't let me get on.
yeah. Anybody else having that problem on
Okay.
Canvas?
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
are?
yes.
Why are you guys not letting me know this? Are we not homies enough yet? Or okay.
Just
I
work
think we're
around it.
just forgetful.
Okay, well, I'm going to reset those permissions. I can't promise I'll set it tonight because I got to do some stuff tonight after class. But if by next week it's not done, send me an email, let me know it's still not working, and I'll get a hold of the adult school. So what are we
All
doing?
right.
At least what we're doing is we're keeping this class alive until the school's opening back up. Nobody knows when it's going to back up because it's obviously not about health.
Yeah.
So
Hell
nobody
yeah,
knows,
let's keep this class
So
alive.
but we're going to keep this class alive until the schools reopen, right? And you guys will be way ahead because after all, we hardly ever get the opportunity to talk about theory like this stuff. We never get the opportunity to talk about theory because everybody's got car problems. And as soon as they find out we're working on cars and we know what we're doing, the floodgates open and we're constantly busy. I mean, we could be working in the shop freaking 10 hours a day every night of the week. So it's actually good that we had the opportunity. Distance learning has kind of forced us into a discipline of actually learning this stuff as opposed to just doing it.
Real Cliff, when you open up, let me know so that I can bring the siren in and have your kids do the brakes
Yeah,
all the way around.
of course. Yeah. Yeah, but if you put
So
what? If you put brakes on the Saturn, wouldn't it double the value of that car? Love you, buddy.
I'll bring the brakes and the 13 so it equals out.
Oh God, here it comes. Yeah. Okay. Well, wait till you see the new improved shop. I mean, there's lots of stuff we need to do, but at least it got a new epoxy floor. They did mop it, but the problem is, man, it shows everything. I mean, footprints. It's not like the concrete floor where it kind of blended in. Now it's bright, and so what? We'll make the best of whatever situation we find ourselves in, which after all, which is the best you can do. The best you can do is the best you can do, right? So that's what we're gonna do.
What we've always done.
Yeah, and that's, well, I'll tell you one thing, folks. I was thinking about it today because my good friend Vadim was talking about getting a 30-year mortgage. Do I really want to be paying a mortgage when I'm 87? I don't think I'm going to live that long, but if my mortgage outlives me, that's actually good, right? I don't know, but I know that life is finite, and I know that every opportunity has an expiration date. And I know that those of us, that we're all getting older, and the window we have to experience joy, delight, become stronger, become smarter, gain skills, drive Corvettes. The windows of opportunities that we all have are all constricting. They're all contracting. They're all getting shorter. So let us renew our vows to ourselves to make the most of whatever we have left, whether it's tomorrow or 60 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good night. Appreciate it. Always love seeing you. I'll see you.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right.
See you guys.